First story. Am I 21M, the jerk for telling my mom 46F how much she hurt me by watching my sister 29F attack and psychologically torture me? Greetings Reddit. I know the title sounds insane and most people are gonna think this is an AI written post or made up based on the title. And believe me, I really wish it was, but it's actually what happened to me. It's been almost a year, and I'm still not over what my evil sister did to me. About last February I did some laundry for my mom, who's a traveling nurse, back when I was living in New York with her and my two little sisters and niece. It wasn't ideal, but it worked for us and I was happy as I was. My mom was not an ideal parent, not even close, but I can see that she loved me and my siblings growing up, and most of the time she would do anything for us, keyword being almost. Anyway, after I completed her laundry she got ready for work and went, and I was left in charge of everyone, which was a role that I was used to at that point. Although the next day was when everything went to hell. The whole house lost power during the snowstorm and my mom wasn't picking up. And I was unemployed and still in college, so I was financially powerless to do anything about it. I tried calling her multiple times but she never picked up, and the little kid in me was getting scared and assumed the worst. I went the entire day trying to call her, and I was trying not to resort to a certain option. Calling my now ex-sister, who we're gonna call Diana, obviously not her real name. The reason why I didn't want to call her was because growing up she made my life a living hell. She beat me up and made me believe that it never happened, and my mom would let her get away with attacking, abusing and bullying me, and she got mad at me whenever I stood up for myself. The final last straw was when she turned one of my little sisters against me and made her think I was physically violent and caused her to attack me. I used to think it was semi-normal, but looking back on it I realized how messed up it truly was. Eventually, being incapable of reaching mom, I reached out to her and she actually helped and got us back into contact with her and lectured mom about being irresponsible with her planning. They helped us out until the power came back on and I thought that would be it. But then the day after she was going to take us to Maryland, while she went to get our mother and bring her to Maryland, and even at the time I thought it made no sense, and my sister and I expressed our disinterest in going, but she started to get aggressive with us and I didn't want her to hurt our little sisters and niece, so I played along, but now I'm regretting it because I realized that she was out of her mind, since she would have to travel an even further distance to bring her home and have to take extra steps. But if I told her that, she would have raged out at me like she always had. I don't mind a road trip, but it was unnecessary for the situation we were in, and I couldn't tell her that because she'd get mad at me and get personal with me. The road trip was a complete disaster, and I would also say waste of time, but for me it was a lesson for me to never trust her to help me again. Because she's more interested in what she wants than what we need. I'm autistic, Asperger's syndrome, so situations like this tend to affect me for a long time. She could have dropped her off at our house and then come to get us, but she ended up making the situation more complicated than it needed to be. Then she tells us to clean the house despite only getting home not even 3 hours ago. Then I had enough and told her off for the road trip, but she started talking to me like a child for wanting some boundaries. I tried to be respectful as possible, but she really tested my patience, telling me I couldn't handle the truth when she got upset when I said I never wanted to go on a road trip with her and it was a waste of time for everyone. I can't rely on someone who makes the situation worse. Then for the first time in my life I blocked her, and you know what? It felt bad at the moment, but after some time it felt pretty damn good. As soon as I told her I couldn't take it anymore, she mocked me via text, treating me like an ignorant child. It was like as soon as I stopped doing everything she said, I lost the right to be treated like a human being. Then I said she has nothing on me, then she said she had everything on me and I'd see real soon, fully capitalized in the text message. My mom told me she was coming back and I calmed down after a while but had trouble sleeping that night. She hoped I'd put up with her a little longer since she was upset. She never really stopped my sister from acting out, and I'm only realizing after the fact she was enabling her bad behavior. The following day is when things went south. I thought she'd leave us alone now that my mom was home, and she would be too upset to deal with me. The following day I was about to go to the store for my mom, but my older sister and her boyfriend showed up right when I was about to leave. I was so mentally drained after everything she put me through that I just tried to get my strength back, and I heard she was coming over later, so I just thought I'd leave when she got there since she can't force me to stay. But boy was I wrong. I really didn't want to talk with her because my gut was telling me it wasn't going to end well. And I was right. I tried to walk out the door but both of them blocked the door, preventing me from leaving. I was so scared she'd torment and intimidate me because I refused to listen to her the day before. I tried to hide in my room, but she demanded I listen to her for once, and her boyfriend told me not to run away, and my mother forced me to talk with her. But this talk was nothing but her tormenting me for a while. Yelled about how I was not going to be able to take care of myself if I move out, and how if I didn't step up and act like a responsible adult, I'll end up being taken away from my mother and put into a potentially abusive foster home, and kept saying that I'd get into big trouble if I moved into college dorms. And I tried calling her out for standing in front of the door and blocking it with her entire body as if she was holding me hostage, and I'm only now realizing that she was. Again, my mom was doing nothing to stop her. I felt so scared and threatened to the point I couldn't even leave my own house. She said she was blocking the door because every time she tried to force me into a conversation with her, I left the house to avoid her, and she hated it and asked me how she was childish because after getting all up in my face. I felt like dodging the question, but she wasn't giving me a choice, so I tried to move her out the way so I could just get the hell out of there. But my mom and younger sister restrained me as if I was going to attack her, and she was livid and told me I could just go to jail for what I just did, so I decided to call the police on myself, which my mom didn't allow, and she talked about the time when I was 16 and she physically attacked me but spun it around to make me seem like the aggressor, and she laments how she got in trouble with the authorities. She mocked me for over an hour and mom did nothing to defend me, and the only thing she said was that she wanted it to end, and my older sister said she was going to start doing visits, and if nothing changed this conversation would happen again, and she looked at me with the most hateful look she's ever given me and said, "The truth hurts, and if you put your hands on me again you're not going to end up in a happy place," and slammed the door and left. Then my mom just gave me back my phone and told me to calm down. I was so stressed out and traumatized I couldn't eat, sleep, and I didn't feel like myself anymore, and I had to ask my mom to hug me and break down in tears. Usually I don't cry in tough situations, but this practically broke me. I spent weeks having nightmares wanting to kill myself, thinking I'm a dangerous person who will attack anyone at the drop of a hat. I spent weeks figuring out what to do, and my mom told me everyone was in the wrong, only making me feel more insane. I eventually moved out after my summer job was finished and am currently staying with my dad, who can't believe I went through something so horrible. Sorry if my story seems a little all over the place, but only now do I realize how messed up this all was. As soon as Dad found out what happened to me, he was in shock that Diana could be so cruel to me or anyone. When he and my mom were still together, he thought she was one of the sweet ones. They were never close, but they got along okay. But when I was confiding in him, he confessed that she sent him some pretty nasty texts while he was in the hospital. He got sick around the same time I was forced to Maryland and tortured. I wanted to go see him, but she wouldn't let me. I know now that I could have held my ground a bit more, but I grew up around this influence and was basically isolated from the type of people who would have made me realize how messed up this all was. I'm in a better place now, and I'm rebuilding my relationship with my dad, who's currently the best part of my day. If it wasn't for him, well, I don't know what I would have done. Here's the part where I may be the jerk. Around Christmas time a month ago, my mom told me that Diana didn't hate me despite what she did to me. That pissed me off to no end, which made the resentment towards her that I've been building up just come out in the form of a bunch of text messages that poured out all of my feelings about the situation. I can't remember exactly what I said in those text messages, but here's a summary. I told her how much she enabled her growing up and how she used me as a sacrificial lamb to appease Diana's temper tantrums, despite the fact she was already a grown-ass adult and I was a middle schooler, and she always told me to be the bigger person, but when I was standing up for myself I was being disrespectful because she was an adult, and I called her out on how bullshit that was because I was an adult when she was harassing me and that made no difference for her. I told her how hurtful it was to see her standing there with a blank expression on her face as she allowed her oldest daughter to hurt, torment and psychology torture her son, and I told her that she cared more about her than about me, otherwise she wouldn't have let it get this far. And I started cursing at her, which is something that I never did before or have done since. But I was just so broken inside and never allowed to express myself when living with her, but I felt like I could let it all out without worrying about traumatizing my niece or siblings. I used to be so close with my mom, but now I feel nothing but resentment and sadness every time I think about her. And I've been finding out more and more about why she left my dad and why he was never allowed to know what was going on with our lives growing up after she left him and took us to New York as kids. I always assumed he knew about it but chose not to fight her on this since the court system doesn't favor dad's rights. But when I asked him about it, he revealed that he didn't even know she was going to do that, and if it was up to him he would have tried to keep us with him. That made me even angrier with her because she basically kept me from my dad, and when I asked her why, she basically said she wanted to build a life for us when the life we had from what I can remember was just fine. I told her how much her rash and reckless decisions hurt me and how her favoritism towards Diana had caused me trauma that will stick with me for the rest of my life, and I even cried a little while texting these things. I hated being full of so much hate and resentment towards Christmas, and I told my dad about it, which made me feel better, even after my mom told him that I hated her. Which might seem like the case, but even though I typed that I was feeling resentment towards her, I can't find it in my heart to truly hate my mother. She just really hurt me, and I'm only just realizing how much her actions are in the case with Diana, and actions really hurt and traumatized me. Please Reddit, tell me, am I the jerk for feeling this way? Update. Thanks to everyone who has reached out to me and validated me and my experience. I feel terrible for everyone who had a similar experience as I had, but I can't express my gratitude for your kindness enough. And to those people who are attacking me in the comments for trying to escape my sister or belittling me for my fanfiction posts, all I have to say is, you people are horrible. But while I understand that my mom isn't a good person and she has done and will probably do some things that will hurt me in the long run if I don't cut contact with her, I still can't bring myself to hate her. I know it's probably because she's been in my life for such a long time, but she's the only one who was willing to take in my niece after her mom, aka my other ex-sister, lost custody of her and has been taking care of her. I know it doesn't excuse what she did, and I'm still furious with her. But please don't label her as purely evil. If I had to describe her in one word, it would be selectively enabling. But I could still be healing and might not see things clearly yet, but I'm aware enough to understand that she failed me when I needed her the most. I know I sound like a mess, but I'm still trying to make sense of this situation. Update. Just when I thought my relationship with my mom hit rock bottom, she found a way to dig even deeper. During a road trip to see my aunt for her birthday party, which was a blast by the way, he brought up someone from my past that I would rather not think about. She is the mother of my niece, or as I like to call her, my other ex-sister. For simplicity I will address her as Pamela. The reason I don't like talking about this one isn't because she was like Diana. To be honest with you, for the most part she treated me very well. But when I was 7 years old, back when my mom and dad were still together, she took me to her room and she had me take my clothes off and did the same to play around with me. I didn't realize at the time what was going on wasn't appropriate, but I just played along with it, but she scared me into silence, so I never mentioned it to either of my parents. I thought it was normal for siblings to do that, and I'm ashamed to say that I thought it was a good idea to try it with my younger sister, but she refused and I never tried it again and just moved on from it. At least until I was 13 years old and watched a video on YouTube about sexual abuse and what it was. I got hooked on them and watched more and more, which led to me realizing what she actually did to me. It would be an understatement if I said I was devastated. Despite the act happening years ago, in the moment I realized that she sexually abused me, it felt like it just happened. Then I realized what I tried to do with my little sister, and I felt extremely guilty, so much to the point where I wanted to kill myself. I told my dad what I did one day out of guilt because I felt like hiding it from him made me no better than her. He wasn't happy about hearing it, but he said that I was young and impressionable, and since I understand it was wrong, that he didn't think any less of me. Which was relieving, but at the same time I feel like I deserved a harsher reaction. Which leads me to the update. Dad was confused why I didn't want him to mention Pamela to me, and I reminded him that she sexually abused me as a kid, but he was caught by surprise at this revelation. Which felt odd because Mom told me he knew all about it. And his lack of a harsh reaction to what I confessed to him made me think that was why, because he knew that I was groomed to believe it was normal behavior. So I had to relive the trauma and guilt of everything I went through and almost did. I'm sure a lot of you are gonna think I'm disgusting for what I tried to do, and I don't blame you. I'm disgusted with myself and have been for 8 years now. Whenever I think about what I did I want to throw myself off a building. Anyway, Dad said he knew Pamela did something but Mom refused to elaborate on what she did, which made me feel very betrayed because back in high school when my brother and I were riding the bus home, I saw him crying about something. I asked him what was wrong and he just started apologizing to me and I did my best to calm him down so he could explain why he was upset. I thought he was getting bullied or something scary happened to him at school that day, but he told me that our mom told him about my sexual abuse and everything I went through, which kinda threw me off. When I got home that day I was livid with her and didn't care about the consequences for mouthing off to her because I felt completely betrayed by her for revealing something so personal and traumatic for me to someone else without my knowledge or consent. He was only 14 years old when he found that out, but I was mad at her for a while until I demanded that she tell everyone in our immediate family about this and spared no details, and she said she would and later confirmed that she did tell everyone including my dad. I probably overreacted that day but I was so upset with her for putting all of this on my little brother. The part where I may be the jerk in the update is where I told my dad that I completely disowned her for what she did and he said it wouldn't be fair since I tried to do the same thing to my little sister, which seriously hurt to hear and it made me mad that he was comparing the two. I'm just not sure if I have the right to be mad about it after what I did to my little sister. Even though I had no idea it was a messed up thing to do, I still feel horrible about it. He then said he didn't think I was a bad person and apologized for bringing up a sensitive topic for me. I don't personally blame him since he had no idea and just didn't want me to be hateful towards Pamela since she had to be between the ages of 13 to 14 years old when she did it, which wasn't much older than how I was when I got the idea in my head. Now I'm rethinking everything all over again when this was supposed to be a fun trip. And before you attack my dad in the comments, please understand that he had no idea what I went through and he was born in a different generation. But he's a good man and only wants what's best for me. Which leads me back to my complicated feelings about my mother after we got home. I was still processing my conversation with Dad about my sexual trauma and felt furious that I was caught off guard and had to tell him something he should have already known. My mother was willing to tell my 14-year-old brother at the time, who had no business knowing any of it, but she refused to tell my dad anything about something as important as his son being sexually abused, even though it happened in the house they both owned. I'm just so freaking mad right now, mad at Pamela for taking advantage of me when I was just a young dumb kid. Mad at myself for trying to do that to my poor baby sister, who I still apologize to every other day. And most of all, I'm mad at my mom for being so willing to tell my little brother behind my back but refused to tell my dad after I asked her to tell me that she told him despite not even giving him any context. I was so furious that, like I did before, I unleashed my pent-up feelings of betrayal in the form of text messages and let her know how I felt having to tell my dad everything about my sexual abuse and had to relive the guilt of my most shameful action after. Comments. Beautiful_Fig 1986. You're the violent one. Your sister didn't touch you. You tried to attack her. Wake up to yourself. To this op responded, I think you missed the part where she was blocking the door with her body and refused to let me leave. I wasn't trying to attack her, I just wanted to move her out of the way so I could leave my damn house. Telling her no didn't work and she's physically assaulted me in the past. Perhaps you should wake yourself up before you go telling people that they're violent. Best Confidence 1560. She blocked the door, forced him to sit and listen to her mock and belittle him, a much younger sibling with a disability, and in your mind, he's the villain. Then Shingdi5 replied, NTA op, don't listen to the trolls. You did nothing wrong. Next you see your psycho sister, hopefully never call the police. Op replied, oh, I plan to, not to see her again but calling the police if she dares come within 5 feet of me. Thanks for standing up for me, it's more than my mom has ever done. It's really therapeutic seeing people telling me I'm not crazy. Well, I'm crazy but not psychotic, lol. Shingdi5 responded, standing up for yourself is difficult, especially if you're standing up to family. Just remember that you deserve to be treated with respect, and that abusive nutcase that you unfortunately share DNA with is a piece of rotting garbage that belongs in the dumpster. Another commenter named RC Sigma wrote, Enta. I'm going to say this as an autistic person myself. I know it's so very hard to learn to stand up for yourself. I used to end up in similar situations, feeling pressured into doing things I don't want to because I was afraid of any kind of confrontation. I've learned over the years that the short period of discomfort associated with a confrontation is so much less severe than playing along for the sake of not rocking the boat. I believe in you. If I can get anywhere near something considered socially normal, I believe you certainly can too. Based on your post, you seem to be a capable and intelligent person. In my case, once I mostly got over the initial fear of confrontation, it raised my confidence quite a bit learning I was capable of standing up for myself, and it became so much easier from then on. Op responded saying, "Thank you for the advice. I have started standing up for myself a lot more since that terrible day, but it was such a bad experience I needed to know if I was just holding on to the past or I was valid for feeling this way. I think the main reason why I couldn't find the strength to stand up for myself was because I was the only one who was willing to take a stand against her and everyone else was treating me like I was crazy. Since I moved out and in with my dad, I have started feeling more confident in myself, but I still have a long way to go to heal from my trauma. I'm not glad other people went through what I did because frankly no one deserves that kind of treatment. But I feel more assured knowing that I'm not alone in this kind of struggle. Thank you again." OP was voted not the jerk. Am I the asshole for calling my wife a cheater? My wife went to a movie festival with a few of her coworkers. I was supposed to take my daughter to the museum and then pick her up. The museum was closed, so I took her to the movie festival instead. As we were looking for seats, my wife saw us and invited us over. She was sitting in the middle of two of her male coworkers, so she asked me to take the seat behind her. One of the two of her coworkers volunteered to scoot over to allow me to sit next to her. Ever since then she has been pissed off at me. The moment I try to say anything about the movie, she lashes out at me asking her to not embarrass her before her coworkers by speaking, when all the while, she was laughing and chatting with her male coworkers. I made a joke about a scene, whispered it to her, and she lashed out at me again for embarrassing her with my lame jokes. When her coworker, the one still next to her, made the same joke, she laughed with him. At one point of the movie, she asked for the explanation of a scene. When I tried to explain, she shushed me and went on to take the explanation from the coworker instead. Given that he gave the explanation after I was shushed, I wasn't really interrupting her. When I came home, I accused her of cheating, not physically, but emotionally cheating on me. She called me names and said I was trying to assassinate her character and that I was talking too much and her coworkers were not comfortable bringing family members, etc. I didn't crash her date, she called us over, mind you. Now, I know that she's not sleeping with him and I know that she doesn't even have any feelings for him. But the way she acted made me feel betrayed and cheated on. Ada. Edit 1. Too many comments regarding this. I didn't show up unannounced, nor did even my wife accuse me of spying on her. I was supposed to be there, and she knew I'd be there. I was just supposed to be 2 floors below, at the museum till the movie was over. Then we were supposed to head home. Edit 2. Please understand that I am not looking for marriage advice. Just wanted to know if I was wrong to call her a cheater when she was not. She's still my wife and I won't stand people disrespecting my wife. Edit 3. People calling me a doormat, whatever, please understand that I don't take any of it lying down. So much so, that I believe that I disrespected her more than she did to me throughout the marriage. Edit 4. I have access to all her accounts. She really isn't cheating. And she's not tech savvy to open her own accounts, she's a biochemist in a science communication career and I'm a CTO. Edit 5. She didn't do any of those in front of her coworkers. They were staring at the screen. I whispered, "That guy came out of an egg." She leaned in and whispered, "Don't embarrass me in front of my coworkers with your stupid jokes." I heard her, no one else did. Things went on like this. I have ADHD and I talk too much anyway. So, if my post felt like she screamed in front of everyone and insulted me, nothing like that. Update. We made up and everything is stable for now. Every couple has ups and downs in a relationship. A single fight doesn't make or break it. Just needed an outside perspective to know whether I was overreacting or if my anger and sadness was justified. Update 2. Thank you for all your responses except for the people who think I made this up. That's just stupid. Just know that any fight would look wrong when heard from just one side of the story. All marriages have fights, all of them have ups and downs. This is just one of them. It wasn't a call for help or relationship advice. Just wanted to know if the cheater label was a bit extreme or not. Ada for calling her a cheater. I am 100% certain she isn't cheating on me. If I even had a bit of a reasonable suspicion, I would be investigating instead of wondering if I am the asshole. But this post took way too much of my time and devolved into calling and saying shit about me and my family. None of you know me or my wife or what kind of dynamics our marriage has or what kind of people we are to assume. You wouldn't know if she's cheating on you. She isn't. Wasn't even the question whether she was cheating or not. I am turning off notifications for this post. Thanks for your advice and time. Made me feel good to know that I didn't overreact. Comments. Nova Prime 1988. I'm sorry to be blunt, but does your wife even like you? If my husband was embarrassed to be seen or interact with me, not sure he'd be my husband anymore. NTA. To this Sirali replied, exactly. If she's shutting you down, refusing to interact with you in public, and laughing it up with another guy, that's a pretty big sign something's off. It's almost like she was trying to distance herself from you on purpose. Relationships are about connection, not competition. Kulo81 comments, NTA. I don't know if cheater is the right word. Maybe bitch is more accurate. To this cultural situation replied, I may not know my cheaters, but I know a bitch when I see one. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please press the like button and subscribe for more Reddit stories.